When you think about tech, like real cutting-edge stuff, what comes to mind?
I mean, Silicon Valley's got to be up there, right? Maybe Seattle too.
Yeah, for sure. Or like Berlin's been making a name for itself.
Totally. But, there's a whole other area that's kind of flying under the radar.
What do you mean?
Eastern and Central Europe, for one, the Caucasus region, even parts of Central Asia.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think about those places a lot in terms of tech.
Well, they're actually becoming really important hubs for innovation. There's a ton of potential brewing over there.
So like, are we talking startups? What's driving this?
It's a mix of things. Some countries have really strong tech talent pools. Others are seeing massive investment in infrastructure.
Makes sense. So if someone wants to get in on the ground floor, how would they even...
That's a great question. And it leads us right to the company we're digging into today, Softprom.
Softprom. Okay, haven't heard of them.
You might not have, but they're a big deal in this region. In fact, they call themselves the most innovative IT distributor, working across Eastern and Central Europe, the Caucasus, and even into Central Asia.
Wow, the most innovative? That's a pretty bold claim.
It is, which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. We want to understand who Softprom is, what they do, where they operate, and what they value.
And where's our intel coming from for this?
We've got their About Us presentation and their website. It should give us a decent picture of what they're all about.
So are we ready to jump in and get a better sense of this so-called most innovative IT distributor?
Absolutely. Let's see what makes Softprom tick.
All right, so first things first. Softprom labels themselves as a value-added IT distributor. What exactly does that mean?
Good question. It's not just about moving boxes, right? Value added means they're bringing more to the table than a simple middleman.
So like what kind of extra stuff?
Expertise, support, a whole range of services that go beyond just handing over a product. They want to be seen as a real partner in the tech ecosystem.
Interesting. So where is this ecosystem? Their About Us stuff mentions a pretty massive geographic area.
Yeah, they specifically highlight Eastern and Central Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia as their main focus. But they also say they work in the DACH region, which is basically Germany, Austria, and Switzerland.
So they're kind of bridging those two worlds then, the more established tech scene in DACH and these emerging markets further east.
It seems like it. And their head office is in Vienna, Austria, which actually makes a lot of sense geographically if you think about it.
Yeah, they're kind of right in the middle of everything there.
Exactly. So it makes you wonder how they're using what they know from the DACH market to help things grow in those eastern areas.
Makes sense. Plus, they're not exactly new to this whole IT game either. They really emphasize their experience, like over 25 years of it.
Yeah, they even mentioned celebrating their 25th anniversary. That's pretty impressive in the tech world, which changes so quickly.
Totally. Okay, so we have a sense of their vibe, but let's get specific. Where exactly do they actually have a presence on the ground?
Their website has a whole list of countries, and it's pretty extensive. We're talking about places like Albania, Poland, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, all the way to Uzbekistan. It's a lot.
Wow, that's a serious footprint.
It really shows their ambition, right? And
Yeah.
it can't be easy to manage operations across so many different countries with different languages, regulations, everything.
Absolutely. And beyond just saying they're present, do they mention specific office locations anywhere?
They do. They list offices in key cities like Baku in Azerbaijan, Almaty in Kazakhstan, Kyiv in Ukraine, Tbilisi in Georgia. It's a pretty strategic spread.
So they're really putting down roots in these places, not just doing business remotely.
It seems that way. And there are hints in their contact info about more offices in places like Bucharest, even in Germany and Switzerland, and down into Greece and Cyprus.
Wow, it's like a whole network. It must be a logistical challenge to keep everything running smoothly.
Yeah, for sure. Now, to get a better picture of their boots on the ground, their presentation actually shows a map with staff numbers in different countries.
Okay, that's helpful. So where are they concentrating their people?
It looks like Germany, Poland, and Czechia have the most staff, followed by Ukraine and then Kazakhstan. And it's not just sales either. They've got engineers sprinkled throughout those countries as well.
Interesting. So they're not just selling boxes, they're providing technical support too. It goes back to that value-added idea.
Exactly. And when you add it all up, they have a decent-sized team overall, around 150 total staff, with over 80 in sales and 25 engineers across those 15 offices.
Okay, so they're a real company, not just a couple of guys in a basement. We get it. But what about the actual technology? What are they focusing on?
Well, their materials outline 5 core areas of business. They call them directions, which I think is a cool way to put it.
Okay, so what are these directions?
Cybersecurity, cloud, IT systems, security systems, and CAD and graphics. It's a pretty broad range of stuff covering a lot of the essential needs businesses have today.
That makes sense. And to support all of that, they must have a ton of different vendors they work with.
You're telling me. They actually mentioned working with over 100 vendors, something like 113 or 115, depending on where you look. It's a lot to keep track of.
For sure. So can we break down those directions a little more? Like what specific types of stuff are they offering in each area?
Absolutely. Let's start with cloud. They've got some big names there, like Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud.
Makes sense. Everyone's moving to the cloud these days.
Yeah, it's a huge market. And then in CAD and graphics, you see companies like Adobe, Corel, and SketchUp. So they're covering the design and multimedia software space pretty well.
Cool. What about IT systems?
That one seems to be more about infrastructure and management tools. They've got Cisco, Lenovo, VMware, that kind of thing. And it's interesting, they visually lump security systems in with that category before giving it its own section.
Ah, so maybe they see them as connected in some way.
Could be. But then when you look at the security systems category itself, it's more focused on physical security stuff, like video surveillance and access control.
Got it. And then there's cybersecurity, which seems like a huge focus for them.
Totally. That vendor list for cybersecurity is massive. You see names like Fortinet, CrowdStrike, ESET, basically all the heavy hitters in the cybersecurity world.
Wow. So they're really serious about that.
Yeah, and with good reason. Cybersecurity is absolutely crucial for businesses today, especially with all the threats out there.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So they've got a big team. They're all over the place geographically, and they're working with a ton of vendors across a bunch of different tech areas. What else makes them special, though? Like, what are their core values and strengths?
Well, right off the bat, they talk about their highly skilled workforce. They specifically mention having 30 engineers who are constantly running pilot projects in all those different countries.
That's pretty impressive. So they're not just selling stuff. They're really getting their hands dirty and figuring out how to make it work.
Right. And then they boast about their strong portfolio, claiming it's the biggest in Europe for IT security, cloud solutions, and CAD systems.
Yeah, we saw those vendor lists. They're pretty extensive. But why do you think they emphasize the size of their portfolio so much?
I think it's about offering their partners a one-stop shop for all their IT needs. It simplifies things for the partners if they can get everything from one place.
Makes sense. What else do they highlight?
They talk a lot about their partner network, how they have over 25 years of experience helping new vendors enter these markets. They want to be seen as a trusted partner.
So building relationships is key for them.
Absolutely. Especially in these diverse markets, strong partnerships are crucial for navigating local nuances and building trust.
For sure. And lastly, they emphasize their established position as a unique VAD distributor in the DACH region, Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia.
Yeah, that really drives home the point about their broad reach and their specific focus on being a value-added distributor.
It sounds like they're really positioning themselves as more than just a middleman. They want to be a strategic partner, offering expertise, resources, and a whole ecosystem of support.
Absolutely. Now, how do they actually make all this happen? They use a really interesting visual in their presentation, an iceberg.
An iceberg, what's that all about?
It's a classic way to show what's visible versus what's happening behind the scenes. Above the water, they show order and risk management, which is what you'd expect from any distributor.
Okay, so what's below the surface?
That's where it gets interesting. They list sales and tech support, which are obviously crucial, but they also mention their development partner network, suggesting they're actively working with partners to expand their reach and capabilities.
So it's not just about selling to partners, it's about collaborating with them too.
Exactly. And further down, they have training and certification, which shows they're committed to building expertise within their partner ecosystem.
Makes sense. What else?
Lead generation and digital and AI marketing. So they're not just sitting around waiting for orders, they're actively drumming up business.
Wow, that's pretty proactive.
It is. And the overarching principle is always in touch with vendors. So strong relationships upstream are clearly a priority for them.
It really paints a picture of a company that's actively engaged at every level, not just passively distributing stuff.
That's a good way to put it. Now, the big question,
Yeah.
are they seeing results from all of this?
Well, they claim to be growing pretty rapidly. They mentioned a 40% year-over-year increase in 2024, which is pretty impressive.
It is, especially considering the diverse and sometimes unpredictable economies in those regions. What do you think is driving that growth?
I'd say it's probably a combination of things. The increasing demand for digital transformation in these markets, the growing importance of cybersecurity, and maybe their established network and value-added services are giving them an edge.
It's probably a bit of everything. And to capitalize on that growth, they're actively looking for more partners.
Yeah, they have a whole section on their website about becoming a partner. What kind of benefits do they offer?
They emphasize an individual approach, meaning they tailor their offerings to each partner. They also talk about their technical support, which is key for partners who might not have their own in-house expertise.
So they're really trying to be a helpful resource.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they even offer access to a demo laboratory so partners can test out solutions before they commit. Plus, they promise prompt delivery, which is essential in the distribution world.
It all adds up to a pretty compelling package for potential partners.
So to wrap it all up, Softprom is this value-added IT distributor with a huge reach across Eastern and Central Europe, the Caucasus, and parts of Central Asia. They're focused on key tech areas like cybersecurity, cloud, and IT infrastructure, and they work with a ton of different vendors.
They really emphasize their skilled workforce, their extensive portfolio, their partner-centric approach, and their established position in these markets.
Right, and they're not just about distribution, they're actively involved in supporting their partners, providing training, and even driving demand. And it seems to be working because they're reporting significant growth.
So they're a company to watch for sure. But it raises a bigger question for our listeners.
What's that?
Given the unique challenges and opportunities in these regions, what do you think will determine the success of IT distributors like Softprom in driving technology adoption and progress moving forward? It's a complex landscape, and I'm sure there are a lot of factors at play.
Yeah, it's a great question. And maybe exploring Softprom's website further or looking into broader trends in these regional IT markets could give our listeners some more insights. It's definitely an area worth paying attention to.